Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is my Nonfiction November TBR, and I am excited. So excited. I only discovered this readathon at some point over the summer, and since then I have been waiting in anticipation for Olive at a Book of Olive to post her announcement video. Like it was Christmas and she was Santa Claus. If you don't know what Nonfiction November is, it's really just an initiative to get everyone to read a little bit more nonfiction than they normally might. So to take part, you really only need to read one work of nonfiction. However, Olive and the other hosts this year, whose information I'll put in the description box below, have also provided 4 one-word prompts that you can interpret kind of as literally or as creatively as you would like. So why don't we go through the prompts and then see what I plan to read for each. So the first prompt is time, and I actually have 2 books for that one. And the first is Violins of Hope, Violins of the Holocaust, Instruments of Hope and Liberation in Mankind's Darkest Hour by James A. Grymes. And I interpreted this prompt to be musical time, which if my middle school music theory serves me well, which it very well might not because I am no musician, much to the chagrin of my own father, it is the number of beats in a measure. So since this book is all about music and is actually written by a musicologist, I figured we're gonna go with that interpretation. I read a lot of both fiction and nonfiction set during and about World War II and the Holocaust, but this is from an entirely different lens. It's looking at the importance of the violin within Jewish culture and looking at the violin during the Holocaust in particular as this symbol or beacon of hope and perseverance and comfort. And I can't think of anything that I've read that is looking at it from such a unique angle, and the fact that it's written by a musicologist I think will be fascinating as well. So the next book for time is one that is somewhere in the United States Postal Service, as it has not yet arrived. But it is Black Tudors, Untold Stories by Miranda Kaufman. And 2 things before I go into what the book's about. Obviously, I've chosen this book because it focuses on a particular time period. Truth be told, the previous book did that as well, but this is focusing on Tudor England. Secondly, it is written by a female historian, so I always like to point that out. History is still very much a male-dominated field, so I always like to support female historians and their work. Now, Black Tudors. It is a book that I know I've seen on BookTube, and I feel like it might have been on A Cup of Books channel, Emma's channel. Based on my understanding of this book, it is meant to obliterate this misconception that Black people didn't live in Tudor England, or that perhaps if they did live in Tudor England, they were only slaves. And honestly, that's a misconception and a fallacy that I know I have personally fallen victim to. So I'm really interested, really excited to have my eyes opened to the reality of Black Tudors, as it says on the tin. And so I'm very excited about it. Can't wait to sink my teeth into it once it finally arrives, which hopefully will be any day now. We'll see. So the next prompt is movement, and I do have 2 books for that one as well. The first is my attempt to be a little punny, and that is The Race to Save the Romanovs, The Truth Behind the Secret Plans to Rescue the Russian Imperial Family by Helen Rappaport. This was a very loose interpretation of the prompt, let's put it that way. It is by a female historian, Helen Rappaport, so gotta give her a nod that way. So I know I've mentioned on this channel that one of my majors at university was history. What I don't know if I've mentioned is that I am a Russianist. I studied Russian history pretty extensively, and before I became enamored with Russian intelligentsia, Russian literature, and the revolution as a whole, my knowledge of Russia was the Romanovs, and it was a morbid fascination with their murder and the mystery behind Anastasia. So this is very much a book that's going back to my roots, and it's looking at the different governments and family members and loyalists who were all devising plans with the intent on saving the Imperial family. My curiosity with this book is really, how was it possible for all of these different groups to be trying to save this royal family and it amounted to nothing? They were brutally murdered. So I'm intrigued to hear about the different factions and different entities that were trying to do this and failed, and why. I'm assuming it all has to do with politics, but I will report back once I've finished reading this book. So the next book for movement is my look at a cultural movement, and I'm doing that with The Europeans, 3 Lives and the Making of a Cosmopolitan Culture by Orlando Figes, or Fidges. I don't know how to pronounce that. My apologies. But it's a look at the development of a continental European culture during the 19th century that results from globalization. That's not really anything that I had personally thought about or considered, so color me intrigued. I'm also interested by the way that this book purportedly goes about doing that, which is it's looking at a love triangle between Ivan Turgenev, a Russian who is near and dear to my heart, and a prima donna and her husband. And so I feel like there's going to be a little scandal and passion and actual intrigue as we look at this cultural movement. So I am fascinated by it. And I also have to say that this book has stunning end papers. I don't know if you can see that, but they are Degas paintings. So probably the prettiest end papers in my collection. I just needed to point that out. But yeah, this one is gonna be fascinating to me. It's up my alley as 19th century history, and I do think it happens to be the largest of the books. Yeah, it's just under 500 pages, so I do think that it tops all of the other books that I'll be reading for this month. But yeah, despite its size, I'm looking forward to reading this one. So the next prompt was Buzz, and I chose a book with Buzz, and that's The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. And this is a book that has appeared on my booktube with regularity. It's all over my Goodreads, and apparently is a popular and requested book at my local Barnes & Nobles, because when I asked them if they happened to have a copy, they laughed at me as if I had asked if the sky were blue. So I think it's safe to say, although this was written several years ago, it is still a fan favorite and frequently requested. What my understanding is of this book is that these women who worked in factories as dial painters would habitually lick the tip of their paintbrush in order to give it a really fine point, and in doing that they were ingesting a radioactive ingredient that was put in the paint, I believe, to make the paint glow in the dark. Don't quote me on that, as I have not read the book, so I am not 100% positive. But by doing that, they inevitably made themselves sick, and so this is a book about these women who were falling ill and the scandal that arose from it. It is a book that I have to say is part of this rabbit hole that the Rosamund Pike movie on Madame Curie sent me down, which was on the discovery of a radioactive element and also Madame Curie's career. So I'm intrigued, curious, and very much looking forward to reading this book because I honestly have never heard anyone say anything bad about it. I do think that it is going to be a really, really good read. I'm predicting 5 stars, but I might be setting myself up for failure if it doesn't live up to those expectations and the hype. But I'm gonna go with 5 stars. I'm predicting it from now. Just saying. So, the next prompt is discovery. And the book I've chosen for this is one that I was literally crossing all of my fingers and toes for because I was really hoping that I could make this book work for one of the prompts. And I didn't have to work at it at all. This was one that made perfect sense based on discovery. And that is The Tsarina's Lost Treasure, Catherine the Great, A Golden Age Masterpiece, and A Legendary Shipwreck by Gerald Easter and Mara Vorhees. It's perfect because this book is about the discovery of a shipwreck. The shipwreck that is discovered is this 18th century vessel, the Maria, that was transporting these Dutch masterpieces to Catherine the Great of all people when it sank. Every element of this story is fascinating to me. It's about a shipwreck, which who doesn't love a good shipwreck story? It's about art, which I love, and one of the things I miss most with this pandemic is not being able to go to museums. And it's about Catherine the Great, who happens to be one of those historical girl crushes that I talk about often on this channel. I am so excited and cannot wait to actually read this book. This is a perfect book for me. It's more Russians. 3 of the books on this TBR have a Russian in it or focus on Russian history. So clearly I'm being reunited with my passion during this readathon. And lastly, we have the Nonfiction November read-along, which is The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom. And this is a memoir. I do have a copy, obviously, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to read it for the readathon. Memoir is not usually my cup of tea. I read a couple here and there, but it's not what I gravitate towards. It's about a family in New Orleans and this house, the Yellow House, that is eventually wiped away by Hurricane Katrina. I might try to read it if I get through the other 6 books. But I did want to add it to my TBR because I do think it's great that they've added a read-along to the Nonfiction November readathon, and I think that this was a really great choice as well. So we're gonna add it to the TBR, but this is more of a maybe. That is my Nonfiction November TBR. As I've probably said a million times through this video, I am super excited about it and looking forward to reading my stack of books. Fingers crossed I get through all of them because I think they will be fabulous. If you're taking part in this readathon, definitely let me know, and if you've already uploaded your own TBR video, make sure to leave it in the comments because I would love to check it out. I'm always looking for more booktubers who read nonfiction. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give it thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. I appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you on next week's video. Bye!